things. All legal cases are different, and you should seek the advice of your own attorney before acting or making decisions. No attorney-client privilege applies to communications on this show, and no attorney-client relationship is created by calling or writing in. Attorney Rominger practices only in Pennsylvania and maintains his primary office in Carlisle, Pennsylvania.
Hey, good afternoon. Carl Rominger here, 540-0580. Whatever you guys want to talk about. You have a legal question. As you know, I'm an attorney here in the Mid-State, and I answer questions here on the air every Saturday from 1 to 3, so I'll be live for the next 2 hours answering your legal questions, 540-0580. And, of course, we like to keep it Pennsylvania-specific because, as you may or may not be aware, there are 50 states, and all 50 states have different laws. And so every once in a while somebody calls in and says, my son-in-law in New Jersey or my brother in Texas, and I say, interesting, no idea. And the reason is the laws vary quite a bit from state to state, and while there certainly are certain overarching themes, there are many states that view the law very differently. And so what state you live in greatly affects on a day-to-day basis what the various laws might be. 540-0580, Carl Rominger here. By the way, I'm going to talk about my mom's sweet rolls. They're at the Carlisle Bakery, and I'll give you the skinny on that. But if you happen to be able to stop in at the Carlisle Bakery at 35 South Hanover Street. Right now, they've got a big, hot, fresh sheet of my mom's recipe rolls, which I'll talk to you about in a minute. Bob, you're on the air. What's going on, Bob?
Oh, I got a question for you.
Yeah.
My wife left over 2 years ago. We're not divorced. I guess technically we're legally separated. Now, my question is, there's some things that she bought and I still have here. Is she entitled to come back and take them once the divorce proceedings start, or what should I do?
All right. So she's filed or you're going to file?
No, I'm going to file.
You're going to file. Well, once you file the divorce proceedings, we're going to look at, if I'm understanding your question right, we're going to look at your marital estate from the date of separation. So anything you've done since then, anything she's done since then probably isn't going to count for the marriage. Who's been living in the house?
Me.
Okay.
I've been paying all the bills and the mortgage and the taxes and everything
right.
else.
So there may be some credit owed for that. At the same time, there may be some credit owed to her because you've been using the marital asset exclusively. A lot of times those two things wash each other out.
Okay.
There might be some equity in the house as well, and that's going to have to be split up. And we look at the equity at the date of divorce, not at the date of separation. So you're both entitled to any gain or loss on the house over the last couple of years in terms of the equity.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah, there's a lot to be done here. When are you filing?
I actually have the paperwork. What I'm trying to do now is find her. I haven't talked to her in, oh, God, it's been about 15 months. I have no idea where she's living, what she's doing, because I decided once she was gone, I wasn't going to have any contact, and that couldn't come back and bite me.
Right. And now, Bob, the divorce that you're doing, are you doing it yourself or with a lawyer?
No, with a lawyer.
Okay, good. Because what you want to do, because you may have some property issues, once you find her, you definitely want to file in your county, not one of these cheapy divorces where people file them up north. We've had people call in here before. They file it up in Potter County, and then there's a fight over some property, and they find out they got to go to Potter County to have the hearing.
Right.
What else you need to know?
Well, what I needed to know actually is she left the hot tub here, okay?
Okay.
I don't use it because I'm not a hot tub type person. I told my sister, hey, you know what? If you want it, I'll give it to you. Mm-hmm. Could I legally give her the hot tub?
Well, it's marital property, so you can certainly dispossess the marriage of it, but you're going to owe her a credit in the divorce. But I would suggest that you get that worked out by agreement or court order before you just go ahead and do it, or it could cause you a little trouble later.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because I'm tired. Well, I actually filled it back up so the neighbors could use it, but it cost me money.
Right. I can imagine.
Okay,
all right,
so
hot tub party at Bob's house. Got it. All right, brother.
Hey, I got wine and beer. Bring it on.
Oh, no. Harold, you're on the air with Carl Rominger, answering legal questions here on WHP 580. What's going on?
Yes. I'm the executor of the will for my brother. And I'm also have the, his living will and power of attorney, or, everything there. What I'm concerned about, he doesn't have much money, and there's a very good chance that he would go to a nursing home.
Okay.
Would I be responsible for any of that nursing home? I mean, could they come back on me and say, hey, did not.
Because you're the power of attorney or the executor, the answer is no.
Okay.
However, you have to be very careful. When you go to the nursing home, they're going to set you down, and here's some paperwork, and they're going to say, Harold, sign here, 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 and here. You're his power of attorney, yep. And do you want to be his responsible party? Yep. Well, somewhere buried in that paperwork, you're going to find a sheet where you not only sign as executor or power of attorney, because you can't be an executor until somebody's dead.
True.
But you're going to discover that somewhere in there you've made yourself personally responsible for his debts.
So I should get someone like you before I would sign anything, or don't even sign anything.
Yeah, or you can learn to what to look for. And so here's I would tell you it is a good idea to do that.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of times they set you down and they do that thing like, we need you to sign them in. So as you do it, make sure every place you sign is in your capacity as a power of attorney. So I would sign it like Harold Smith, power of attorney for blank, 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 Bill Smith. And or Harold Smith in my capacity as power of attorney for blank, blank, blank. And that's your signature line because you don't want any confusion that you were signing anything for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have to keep your eye on, pretty much just the language of what you're signing. So you might see where you're signing for him as power of attorney, and then you see where you're agreeing to be a guarantor or personally responsible for it. It's usually one page buried back in a whole series of pages.
Hey, I can see that. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Okay. Well, if this happens, I'm going to be getting in touch with you before I sign anything.
That's fine. And of course, if you have to admit him on an emergency basis, I might not. If it's 7 p.m. and they're saying sign here, here, and here, or else we can't admit him to the home. Then you might have to do a little on your own, little digging. Just be very careful what you sign.
Okay. Very good.
All right, my friend.
Thank you very much.
Goodbye. 540-0580, Carl Rominger here. I just wanted to thank the Carlisle Bakery. They posted on our Facebook page earlier this week that they were going to make my mom's, I think if you guys come full circle here, but remember I had my mom on and we mentioned something about her sweet rolls, and then people called in asking for the recipe. We put it online, and then some people baked them, and I guess the Carlisle Bakery thought it would be a fun thing to do, so they baked them, and I stopped in this morning and had them. They were really, really good, and they have a pile of them. I should say a pile, but they made 2 big sheets of them, and I know that a bunch of you guys, because they told me, I had to pry myself out of bed this morning. By the time I got there, most of the first sheet was gone, and they told me some of the listeners had stopped in along with some others. So if you they're going to be open all day. In fact, I think they're open until maybe 7 p.m. tonight. So if you're in Carlisle, you got a chance, you want to try my mother's sweet rolls. They are really good. In fact, I would fair say they're probably some best sweet rolls you can get in central Pennsylvania, but I'm a little biased. They're at 35 South Hanover Street in Carlisle, so I want to give them a little plug and thank them very much. In fact, if you go to my Facebook page, you can see pictures of them. You can link through to their page to get a little more info on them. But do me a favor, if you get a chance, go to their page and like it on Facebook. Just want to thank them for what they did. And best thing, I guess, would be to go in there and get those sticky buns. I call them sweet rolls. Cinnamon, real raisin, a real light frosting. Kind of a lighter frosting they usually see in central Pennsylvania, here in Dutch country. You know how it is. 540-0580, Carl Rominger here. Tom, you have a question.
Yes, thank you, Carl. Carl, you made a statement 3 or 4 weeks ago on this program. I know you have several programs, but I mean on this particular Saturday program about on the Sandusky thing that you thought Penn State was kind of rolling over on this, and they really wouldn't have to be responsible for Sandusky, but you didn't explain why.
From a civil liability standpoint, and talking about anybody who had a situation like this, first of all, there are statute of limitations issues on a lot of these claims.
Mm-hmm.
So a statute of limitations issue is just a fatal, absolute, can't get around it, no help, no how. And the legislature can't even revive such a thing. And what I mean by that is once a statute of limitations has lapsed, the legislature can't recreate it. Now, they can extend it if you're still inside the period for the statute of limitations. So first of all, that's a big defense. Number 2 is whether or not he was working for or part of the university in the capacity that these things happen. So if I run a summer camp called Coral Summer Camp and I rent the local YMCA facilities, they're not running the summer camp. I am. And I'm leasing the land and the facilities. We recognize in Pennsylvania that when I, for instance, rent a garage in the surrounding area and I don't shovel it, when somebody falls, it's not the building owner's problem, it's the lessee's problem.
Okay, and the second mile, I guess, isn't responsible either because...
well, the second mile might be reachable under some theories, but the insurance companies have successfully argued that they're not responsible for indemnifying.
And the thing with Sandusky, when this...
I gotta go to break here, my friend.
Okay, thanks.
All right, thanks. Hey, welcome back. Carl Rominger here, 540-0580. Brian, you're on the air.
Hey, Carl.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is your tenant. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. Our personal business I'll deal with as soon as possible, but that's not why I called.
Okay.
I called for, similar to the two calls ago, the lady with the power of attorney and stuff. I have an uncle upstate New York who fell sick, he broke his hip, and then now he has Alzheimer's. Anyway, my mother and his other brother don't want to be the power of attorney. I'm going up there this weekend to straighten out his mess. There's two questions. What would be my responsibilities with the power of attorney? And the other thing is, I was a nurse, and to me, I think he's considered indigent. He's got Social Security and Medicare, but I know that's not really enough to pay for a nursing home. But that's, they allot, I think, a certain amount of beds to keep somebody in a nursing home. So he's in one.
Okay.
But there was a case of like $1,000 that he had. Would they take that money? Now, besides his monthly, any money that he had, would they grab that up, or what's the legalities with that? Too?
Well,
because
in Pennsylvania, because I know we mentioned New York a little bit here, but
right.
in Pennsylvania, there's rules and there's means testing. In fact, the guy that we need to talk to about this would be Dave Nesbitt with Keystone Elder Law. Maybe he's listening. He'll call in for us.
Right.
But there's a whole series of tests that basically in the state Department of Public Welfare employs, which are kind of Medicaid driven, and it looks at when a person can't pay full fare out of their own assets, what can they do? What are they allowed to keep? What kind of gifting can they have done? And there's a whole series of tests for that. So the long answer, though, is they're not going to let you sit on money and take public money at the same time as a general rule.
Oh, no, and I don't want to. I just want to find out. Like, he also has some valuables, like some jewelry, and he was an art collector, a stamp collection, and some very valuable paintings that are in this apartment that he was living in. But this was also a HUD subsidized place where he was living. Now, they can't just take his stuff, right, his personal stuff.
Right.
He has a will.
His personality, I don't think they're going to care about a lot of his personality.
Right.
But I don't know the rules on property collections, things like that. I got to imagine that if they have value, what they're going to do is require the estate to sell them, and there'll be a lien against the estate that'll be claimed.
That's fine.
Claimed.
What would my responsibilities be as power of attorney?
As power of attorney, you just can't help aid in defrauding anybody. That's your only responsibility. Once he dies, the executor of the will or the estate or the administrator would be the responsible party.
Okay, so my question is, any of this stuff, if it needs to be sold to give them money or stuff like that, would that be my responsibility?
It could be. And what I would encourage you to do is work with the social worker from the home.
Yeah, that's what I'm going to do.
Because they usually try to help, and they know all the rules. And they're usually, I find when I've dealt with them, they're like, okay, family member, I'm going to try to help you keep as much as possible, but here's what we have to do to qualify. But a lot of times you have to remember, at the end of the day, that person's main loyalty obviously has to be to the home where they work for. Yeah.
Sure. I understand. All right, Brian.
Well,
thank you
all right, I'll see you soon, man. Bye.
Have a good day.
540-0580. Kay, you're on the air.
Hi, Carl.
How are you?
Hey, yeah, I'm fine, thank you. Carl, we just had a death in our family.
Okay.
And it was, I hate to use the word mess, but I guess that's what is best to use there. And I don't really want that to happen if I die or if my husband die.
Right.
There's papers that you need. My husband, this morning, all morning, he was looking for his discharge from the service. He doesn't have that. His original birth certificate, he doesn't have that. Now, he does have a birth certificate, but it's different than his original birth certificate. Okay. He was married before, and I don't know if he has that marriage license, but she did die. Now, I don't know if he has that papers, but then he married again, and he does have the second wife's marriage certificate.
Okay.
And
what's the question? What's the question here?
Well, I have a feeling, Carl, that we're going to almost have to come in, and I want somebody to make sure that when me or him die, that we have the proper papers, that.
Right.
And there is another question that I have. I just heard this on your station. How, you said power of attorney, whatever, but
right.
When you said that, I'm thinking, because I've been at the hospital a lot. I had a son that was ill for 30 years. So the power of attorney, I thought that was your HIPAA person.
Well, power of attorney basically means that you have the power to act for the other person as a agent for the principal. So in the simplest format, I would issue you letters or a power of attorney these days, which would say that you could go buy land for me or transact business for me in Transylvania on behalf of some London land concern, and then you would go meet the count, and you could sign legal documents on behalf of me there. Okay.
Okay.
And so power of attorney is really just permission for one person to bind the other person that third parties can rely on,
okay,
and to give instruction. So a medical power of attorney is something where you say, okay, I can act for and do anything medical for you. A real estate power of attorney is I can do anything with your real estate. A broad form, durable, general power of attorney means I can do anything you can do for you.
Okay, but you must have a medical power of attorney to be the HIPAA person.
To get around the power of attorney must allow for medical decision and information. Otherwise, right, they're not going to just share it. Although they can share with spouses and things like that.
No, Carl, I'll tell you honestly, you're going to get more and more. You're much smarter than I am. I know that, but I know this HIPAA thing is really. I mean, it is just unbelievable. When my brother died, now he had remarried, so his new wife was his HIPAA person.
Right.
His own blood, his kids, me, my brother, we were not allowed to see his records because his wife said we couldn't.
Right. Interesting, isn't it?
I mean, to this day, it was unbelievable. We wouldn't even dare take him out for lunch or supper without her permission.
Right. So it's very interesting, and of course, at that point, we also lost. That always causes us to wonder about when people rewrite wills under those circumstances, we call that a close and confidential relationship when one of the family members is keeping somebody away from everybody else. But, of course, when they're the wife, they have a lot of presumptions and statutory rights in the estate anyhow. So,
yeah.
All right, Kay, thank you very much.
Okay.
Yeah, come see us if we need to go over this stuff.
I think we have to, because the only thing that he can find is his recent birth certificate. Now,
well,
Carl, can you please bear with me 1 minute here?
I can, but then the ads come, so hurry up.
Ash has a question.
This is the husband. When I was drafted into the service, right? And I was drafted. My baptismal record said James Truxton Fight, and my Social Security card was James Truxton Fight, and I was drafted into the service under that name.
Right.
Okay, but then when I got out of service, my mother informed me when I wanted to get married, I needed my birth certificate, right? So my original birth certificate I got, and that said Ashton Truxton Fight on it. But the Social Security number is the same for Ashton and James.
Gotcha.
And my new birth certificate has my real name on it, my Ashton Truxton Fight, and I got that all straightened out with the VA and with Social Security.
So it sounds like you're okay.
Sounds like I'm okay.
It does.
So if I die before my wife, she shouldn't have much of a problem.
She shouldn't have much of a problem. As long as we can figure out who all those people are, which it turns out to be you, we'll be in good shape.
Okay.
All right, my friend.
All right, yeah, thank you very much.
Got to go to break. Take care. That was Kay and her husband entertaining us for the last 15 minutes. All right. Welcome back. Carl Rominger here, answering all your legal concerns, questions, propositions, whatever you got for me. 540-05. Not that kind of proposition, Shane. 540-0580. I saw a look on his eyes. Could have been a reflection in the glass. It's hard to say with that kid. On Saturday, March 30th, 2 to 3 p.m., Kelly Keller from the Keller Law Firm will be on. Now, here's what's the big dealio here. Kelly is probably one of the only, maybe the only, intellectual property law lawyer in Carlisle. But in central Pennsylvania, probably one of the only intellectual property lawyers around. Now, there's a few of you out there, I know, and some guys that are going to be squawking but they work in what I call the big box firms, 200 attorneys plus, please bring $800,000 and we'll figure out how to get you a patent and that sort of thing. But Kelly runs a boutique shop, and she has kind of can get access for people who have intellectual property law questions. So if you've ever had a patent idea, or you've ever had to want to trademark something, or you want to know how copyright law works, or you're interested in intellectual property and the law of intellectual property, or you think someday you want to get involved in these things, when we have her on March 30th from 2 to 3, save up your questions, because this is a field where I know very little. It's fascinating, and I like science, and I have a background in biology and physics. But when it comes to the law of intellectual property, it's fascinating. I started to have a conversation with her the other day when I invited her on the show. And then I said, stop, Kelly, stop right now. And she's like, what? I'm like, I'm not talking to you anymore until you come on the air, because I'm learning a lot. But I think the conversation will be more free-ranging and more, educational for me and everybody if I can really approach this as a neophyte and ask you these questions without any, preconceived notion of what the right answers are or any leading. So I'm going to be doing a little learning session on March 30th. So stay tuned and save those questions up. So if you know somebody wants a patent, copyright, trademark, anything intellectual property oriented, that sort of thing, we're going to have her on March 30th. And I've said a lot about that only because I'm very excited. I'm looking forward to learning some things, but I also think you guys will learn a lot as well. And so we'll see what she can teach us. On Thursday, March 9th at 7 p.m., I'm going to be speaking at the Franklin County 912 Patriots in Chambersburg. It's open to the public. It'll be held at the Franklin Fire Company in Chambersburg at 158 West King Street, Chambersburg, PA. So we'll post that up on the website. We'll put it on Facebook. And I don't know what they want me to talk about, but whatever they want me to talk about, Thursday, May 9th at 7 p.m., the Franklin County 912 Patriots. Second Amendment rights and the Castle Doctrine. No, it says right here what they want me to talk about, Shane. I guess if I could read. It's funny when you're a lawyer and you don't know how to read, isn't it? No, he doesn't care. On Saturday, May 18th, what are you saying about me? On Saturday, May 18th from 9 to 3, Mark Virginis and I are going to be at the Lancaster County Women's Expo, which is going to be held at the Spooky Nook Sports Complex. I don't even know how you name something like that. Spooky Nook Sport. Anybody from Lancaster want to give me the history of that name? 2913 Spooky Nook Road, Manheim. So I'm going to be down there for the Women's Expo in Lancaster County on Saturday, May 18th from 9 to 3. And are we broadcasting from down there? We're not. We're not going to be broadcasting from down there. So there's not going to be a show?
Well, I figured you'd come back here and do the show.
Oh, I won't stay the whole time. I got it. I see. So dumb. All right. Anyhow, that's the agenda. Jen, you're on the air. Hi, Jen.
Jen.
Yeah, you, Jen.
I'm on the air?
You're on the air. You're live, baby.
Oh, okay. And you're Carl?
I am Carl.
Okay. My son was pulled over for allegedly not making a complete stop around 1:38 in the morning.
He's talking like a lawyer right now. Allegedly.
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
Tell me allegedly what happened next.
Because he did make a complete stop.
Were you there? Were you in the car?
No, of course not. I was not.
Oh, it's hearsay that you're relating to me, but okay, I believe my son,
yes.
too. Go ahead.
Yeah, I do believe. Okay. And that's the...
My kid's 3, though, so he tends to, fantasize a little bit. But go ahead.
Right, yeah, he can't drive yet. Okay, so the officer said she thought she smelled marijuana, and I think it was an air freshener we just put in the car because he had not been smoking.
Did you take him to the Rite Aid for a quick test?
No, but they took him to the med center for a quick test.
Okay, did he pass?
He did. They claimed, though, that there wasn't enough blood to do a marijuana test.
Okay.
Whatever that means.
I don't know what that means.
Yeah, and so apparently there's no DUI or anything, but I just would like the thing thrown out because the reason they took him for that blood test was they found a roach in the car.
Right.
He didn't even know what that was, but at any rate, he's rather a newbie.
For the listeners, a roach is what happens when you roll your marijuana up in a piece of paper. And this is just what I've learned from being here at the WHP 580 studios all these years.
Exactly.
And you get a little, nub of paper left over because the marijuana smokers are so in love with their marijuana, they smoke it down till they almost burn their lip off. So they're just a little piece left.
Is that what they do, Carl?
This has all been taught to me over many years of criminal law. I can actually say, seriously, I have never tried marijuana. I don't have a problem with people trying it, but I've never tried it. But that's just because I never saw the need. I'm usually probably too drunk to smoke, so,
There you go.
But anyhow.
One or the other. I don't know. Well, I just want to know if the search was legal or if there's any way this could be thrown out because of the...
Where'd they find the roach in his car?
Where?
Yeah.
They said it was right on the console between the two front seats, which obviously he would have seen if it were.
Right.
And
I'm always amazed where the police find things when they, they claim... And I'm saying, I know some officers out there rolling around. I know some very honest officers. But there's a few who magically find things all the time in plain sight. It's always right out in the open. Oh, yeah, he had it. And sometimes the client does say to me, yeah, that was really stupid of me to hang my bowl from the rearview mirror.
Funny. Well, they asked him if they could search the car after they gave him a sobriety test and all of that. And by the way, during the stop, they weren't very nice.
Did he...
But anyway, he passed that test, but they still took him over because they said, they asked him to search if they could search the car, and he said, well, what if I say no? And they said, well, then we impound the car. We take it somewhere else and we search it anyway. He goes, well, then just, do it now, get it over with. Let's not go through that. So.
Interesting. And they told him at that point he was under arrest?
Yes. Handcuffed him.
Yeah, interesting. Well, he may have been able to consent to a search at that point if the detention was legal. And their statement's correct. If they're intending to arrest him, then they're going to impound it into an inventory search. But the default answer is always no, because I can't challenge a consent search if valid consent can be given. I can challenge an impound search or a warrantless search if the circumstances aren't right to allow it. But consent can vitiate that challenge. So I have more challenges available if you don't consent. So all you kiddies out there listening, do not consent to a search of your car under Any circumstance.
Well, that's what I hear, but they told him, well, if you don't, well, then we're going to take the cars.
What did they do with it? Did they arrest him anyhow?
They handcuffed him, said you're under arrest.
Yeah, and then they took him away to the med center, right?
Right.
So did Genius Boy get any better result by agreeing to let the cops look through his car? See what I mean? Let them impound it.
Let them impound it, and then they find it anyway, and I have to pay to get the car out.
Well, no. Let them impound it, but then we have a question of whether they had the right to impound it, whether they had the right to arrest him. See what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm just saying you have more defenses available. So here's my question. Are you more worried about a misdemeanor on your record, or are you more worried about the $85 impound fee? I mean, that's just me thinking out loud.
Right. Well, I don't really want to go through this ARD or any of that for this minuscule amount. And doesn't the amount mean anything? I mean, it's
no, because they're going to charge him with the amount doesn't mean anything. Any amount makes it out. And paraphernalia is anything used, and that's actually a bigger misdemeanor than the marijuana. So unless you cup the marijuana in your left hand all the time as you walk around and then smoke it by lighting your left hand on fire, you're going to be guilty of paraphernalia. But guess what? When you lit it, whatever you use, that match or that lighter, since you used it to aid in the ingestion of the marijuana, it too is paraphernalia now. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, the government has great catch-alls for everything.
Okay, so if you went to represent me at the hearing, would this be thrown out?
It's possible. I mean, he didn't have any in his system. And how are they going to prove that he knew the roach was a roach and that he knew it was marijuana? Did Yin Yang say anything and go, oh, yeah, I know what that is, or, oh, that's probably my mom's marijuana, or anything like that?
No, he didn't say anything like that. He said, what? What's a roach?
Okay, good. Yeah, I could get him acquitted.
And no ARD.
Well, ARD is always a safe route to avoid conviction.
Right, but we're talking $3,000 now.
Right, I agree. But, of course, if we have to have a jury trial over paraphernalia, we're still talking about $1,000 to $2,000 over that issue.
There was no paraphernalia.
They just charge him with marijuana possession.
Right.
Okay, well, then the question is, can they prove beyond a reasonable doubt that he knew he had marijuana in the car, and it can be inferred
well, obviously he didn't, because he would never have said, yeah, go ahead and search the car.
Well, that doesn't mean anything. I've got guys with kilos of coke agreeing to let him search the car, and you can't understand why. Dude, you go to jail for 5 years. Why would you have done that? I thought that I had to let the police search my car. I thought if I said no, go to Facebook and watch my video and see what happens when you assert your rights. I got to go to break.
Okay, go there.
Oh, I just got a text message from somebody. They said, despite not really caring for raisins, I really enjoyed your mom's rolls and even all the raisins. And I said, I'll feel the same about the raisins. So she used to do a raisin-free pan just for me. What can you do? I like raisins well enough, but seems like a perfectly good grape gone to waste if you turn it into a raisin. But hey, what do I know? But my point is, thank you to Carlisle Bakery. And guys, if you get a chance, please do stop in there today. If you can't make it today, stop in there another day. But really, right now, you're going to be able to get these cinnamon rolls. This was my mom's recipe. I'm going to try to get her on the air in a little bit here so we can tell her what's going on. We can tease her a little bit. 540-0580, Carl Rominger here answering your legal questions. By the way, if you need to get a hold of me throughout the week, go to romingerlaw.com, or the law office number is 717-241-6070, 717-241-6070. And as you know, if we don't do the kind of law that you need, we'll find you the person that does. So don't feel like, does Carl's firm do this or not? As a free service, if we don't, we'll find you somebody that does, okay? Tom, you're on the air.
Hi, Carl. Thanks for taking my call.
Yeah.
Hey, there's a elderly lady that we help out financially a little bit. She's in her 70s, assisted housing. She gets a very small Social Security, no assets except an older car and maybe a couch, nothing in her bank account. Well, we found out a couple of weeks ago she has a balance on a credit card. Now, this is from, I looked at it, and it's from cash advances a couple of years ago, and she's mainly just keeping up with the interest.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if she defaults on that, what can they do to her? She says she don't care about her credit. She'll probably die before she can get it paid off. So what's the implications there if she defaults?
Well, the implication if she defaults is they can ultimately sue her, okay?
Okay.
And they can ultimately get a judgment against her and execute it. But the long and short of it is it's not going to be something that's easily done or quickly done. and she can forestall them if she needs to. But, I've seen a lot of cases where an elderly person dies and they have $40,000 in credit card debt and no other assets. And my theory always was, hey, if credit card companies want to give credit to 87-year-old guys, they run the risk. Now, that would be netted out against any estate, and any judgment, if it had gone that far, would be too. But there's no debtor's prison anymore. So
yeah, it's about $4,000 altogether is the total. So it's not a huge sum of money.
Right.
Yeah, she was concerned that if she defaults, are they going to come knocking on her door? Or can
they'll start her. You'll send a sheriff out eventually and sue her. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
But then it's a legal process, and they got to get a judgment. That takes time.
All right.
I don't know what the right answer is. Depends on what her assets are. I mean, she has sufficient assets to cover the minimum payment. She can keep making the minimum payment. If she can't afford it anymore, she could always go bankrupt.
Yeah, that's kind of a. I mean, what do you pay for bankruptcy anyway? It might not be worth
about $1,200, $1,500.
Yeah, it's probably more worth it for just to keep paying, and maybe we should just pay it off for her or something like that.
Well, why would you pay it off for her?
Well, otherwise it's she keeps taking the minimum interest, and it's going to go on, till doomsday.
How old is she?
She's in her 70s. I'd say probably 72 or 73.
Okay. So it could go on for a while, and she could live another 20 years.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that may be an issue then. On the other hand, you may be able to default on it and then get into a compromise and release position with them.
All right.
Which is, hey, we're not going to pay on this, but by the way, if you let us out of it, we'll give you $1,500 and call it even, et cetera, et cetera.
Well, see, that's what I called a credit card company for, and I, said, is there anything that can be done? Well, maybe we can reduce the interest or something, but they didn't really seem too cooperative.
Yeah, they're not going to do that until it goes into default and it goes to a different department called the lawyers.
Oh, okay. All right.
All right.
Okay. Hey, well, thank you for your time.
No problem. Good luck.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
So I did just get on Facebook a post from somebody who said, what are you supposed to do if you live in Lancaster and you want to get these sweet rolls? So if you've got anybody down there in Lancaster that wants to try baking these, if any of the bakeries down there want to give it a try, I'm sure you could do what the Carlisle guys did and just steal the recipe. So I posted it back up here on Facebook, but it's on RomingerLaw.com. And let's see, I just got a post from somebody. If she's on Social Security, disability, or pension, she is judgment-free, and you're right, there is no debtor's prison anymore. And that's from my friend Maggie. What Maggie is saying is, and I agree, if you're on Social Security, disability, or a pension, they can't execute against it, essentially. So there's really no money to take. So if mom has a house, then they could get a judgment against the house. If mom has a car, they could get against a car, maybe. But if her income is just Social Security or a pension of some sort, they're not really going to be able to capture any of that because Pennsylvania does not have garnishment of income. And that's a good point, Maggie. Thanks. 540-0580. John, you're on the air.
Hey, Carl. How you doing?
Good.
Hey, I got a speeding ticket yesterday afternoon.
Okay.
On my way to church.
That's good.
I thought so, too.
Did you tell them where you were going?
Well, when I made the left turn at the stoplight and went up towards the church, I went into the back alley.
Mm-hmm.
And, of course, he got his lights on and he gave out that noise, whoop, 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 So I pulled in there and turned the car off, and he came over and he said I was speeding and over there on a certain area. And I told him, I said, can you give me a break of some sort? He said, maybe we can. He took all my material I had and went back to his car, and about 10 minutes later he came up and he says, I gave you a citation with no points.
Okay. 3111, failure to obey a traffic control device.
Yeah, obedience to a traffic control device. So I thought, okay, well, that's something,
That's actually the big win.
Well, it's better than, I'm not sure what it would have been with points.
Well, with points, it just goes on your driver's record, could potentially affect your insurance, and you got issues there. With a 3111, it's like it never happened.
Okay. Well, anyway, I'm looking at the citation this morning while I'm having coffee at Giant.
Yep.
And I'm looking at it says here, nature of offense, speeding. and then it has the number. And I think what he went to put in there was 43.2, but he wrote in 932, and then he pressed the 3 down. Evidently, he wrote over it twice, or I'd say twice,
right.
But he didn't put the decimal point in. So it just has 43.2.
Right.
Allowed to 25. So is there any chance that I can?
Well, the defense here would be that he wrote up the ticket wrong, but he's going to say he's going to realize that's an error at some point, and he can amend that anytime during the proceeding. More importantly, here the gravitas of the charge is just that you went faster than the speed limit.
Yeah.
So he doesn't need to prove the actual speed. He just needs to prove that you went faster than the speed limit, which means you disobeyed the speed limit sign.
Yeah.
And I always tell people this: if the police officer is kind enough to give you a 3111, just pay it, because he's already given you the big favor, because that's most likely what's going to happen with a traffic ticket. If we have to beat it, we beat it. But if we can work it out, we usually work it into a no-point offense. And there's a few other no-point offenses, but that's a good one. Now,
I know I know I was nitpicking there, but like you say, he was nice enough to give me the citation.
I say nice enough too. I understand. But here's the other thing I want to remind people, because while I'm thinking of this, is a 3111 is a great charge to take to dump something down to, unless you're a commercial driver, CDL driver. Then 3111 in a lot of states counts differently on your commercial driver's license than it does here in Pennsylvania. So you have to know which state, which charge is the best for. So we actually have charges that if I had a Pennsylvania driver, we would never plead to, but if I had, say, an Idaho driver, I'd be like, I want to plead to this one. So there's a whole mix, and then we have a decoder for it. But the idea is for commercial drivers, pleading to a 3111 may or may not be a good idea, but for non-commercial, non-CDL drivers, it's always a bonus.
Yeah, I know. He asked me. He says, "Well, where are you going?" He says, "Right here." He
right.
says, Here what? I said, "The church."
Oh,
he says, "Oh." So I said, "Yeah, I'm picking up some fish dinners." Oh, he says, "Okay, well."
Okay, well, at least he gave you a little bit of a break. I got to go. I'll be back here in the next hour. Carl Rominger here answering your questions. 540-0580, 540-0580. We'll keep answering for another hour live here on the air.